The Husker Radio Network is on the air. It's time for Husker Gameday, brought to you by Dakota Mac. Also brought to you in part by Midwest Ford and your Midwest Ford dealers. Nebraska played their home opener last week against the Akron Zips, and the Big Red provided a bolt of lightning to start the game.
Ball at the Akron 47, right to left in a scoreless game. Raiola under center, single back as Johnson takes a snap, turn right, hand off, Johnson up the middle, burst to the second level. There he goes, 35-30, near left numbers 20, 15, 10, 5. He's in, touchdown, Huskers. 47 yards.
While the Huskers established a strong run game early, it was the right arm of Dylan Raiola that helped the offense explode.
Raiola from the 4 takes the shotgun snap. Looks right, swings it right, wide open at the 5. EJ's in for a second touchdown. Raiola off a play fake, deep drop, slings one over the middle, caught and an in cut between the hash marks. 10-5, touchdown. Two-step drop, looks left, angles out left, rolling, throwing, caught. Lindenmeyer at the 4 and in. Surveys under pressure, rolls right, flips one right side of the end zone, caught. Dane Key crossing the back line of the end zone, gets a foot in for a Husker touchdown. Key unlocks 6.
Meanwhile, the black shirts were suffocating the Akron offense.
Finley claps for the snap, takes, hand off, and that's a safety. Jordan Gant is swung down by Cade Petshock. Indeed, welcome to college football, young man. Gets the safety, 9-0 Huskers. Now to Finley, handoff to Gant. Oh, he's thrown down ferociously. Willis McGahee with a thunderous hit back to the 47 of Akron. On a third down and short, snap, turn right, handoff, Johnson denied. Andrew Marshall, the big red wall, comes out of the fray with his fist to the heavens in celebration.
Nebraska eventually closed out a 68-0 victory, setting a number of records and milestones in the process.
That means a lot. Personally, I haven't been a part of a shutout before, so to be a part of that was amazing, and especially being able to see the young guys get in the game and be able to dominate the way that they did. It was a great feeling.
You look at all aspects of the game, I think the team played amazing. We were out there playing for each other. No one moment or one person was bigger than the team. It was just fun to go out there. You could tell on the sidelines, energy was there. We always say we want to be the best sideline locker room, and you had the energy, you had the focus, you had just everything you want in a good game.
As the Big Red prepare for another home game this morning against Houston Christian, the Huskers are taking the same approach that has led to their 2-0 start.
I want us to be a football place, right? Football teams, you put away the people you're supposed to put away. You don't let them have life. That's the mentality we're supposed to have. Showing up, being locked in, taking responsibility for the things that were good, taking responsibility for the things that have to improve.
I think we made huge improvement from week 1 to week 2. That's something Coach was talking about throughout the week, was making that big jump as far as just gap discipline, getting off blocks, using our hands and being physical. That's something he preached all day, and, we practice very hard here. So I feel like we were improving week to week, and that's something that you want to see.
Now, here's your host, Ben McLaughlin.
Good morning and welcome to another edition of our Dakota Mac Husker Game Day Show. Nebraska football on the air. Another beautiful late morning for football here in Lincoln, Nebraska. Today, the Cornhuskers will welcome in Houston Christian, FCS opponent, with a 1-1 record here to Memorial Stadium. It'll be the third opponent for Nebraska in this conference in their school's history, one of which gave Nebraska a little bit of a test. Amir Abdullah got Nebraska out of some trouble with that game against McNeese State a few years back. Hopefully a little bit easier going today for Matt Rule's Huskers after just a dismantling of Akron last week here at home, and really hard to imagine a better get right or a better feeling game than what the Huskers were able to put together last week here in Lincoln. Happy to have you with us here this morning. Coffee, caffeinated beverage of your choosing, probably some slinging of some eggs happening right now. We welcome you into Husker Sports Network studios. happy to be joined again by my fired up, well-rested co-host, former national champ Damon Benning. I'm going to say hour and a half of sleep for you.
We got to almost 3.
Wow.
I know.
People don't know that about you. You don't sleep.
Yeah, and it's incredibly difficult. And then we didn't get home from high school until 11, and I deliberated for, I don't know, probably an hour on whether to eat or not. So that wasted a little time. And then I had to catch up on, I started, for whatever the reason, glutton for punishment, BMAC. I started the New Mexico UCLA game over as opposed to just watching key plays.
The key plays would have sufficed for that one?
So about a quarter and a half in, I couldn't believe what I was watching. So then I just proceeded to watch the whole train wreck. That is, I don't have any idea what happened in Westwood, but it is not good. And that was on the tail end of watching what happened with Arizona and K-State. The Ireland hangover is apparently a real thing.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
go ahead. If you're going to play in that game and you don't win, just don't play the season.
Yeah. Cancel it all.
Isn't it amazing?
Yeah, they don't look good at all. We were quietly going through and had the ability to with how Nebraska's game was going last week.
Yeah.
Everybody was asking. I mean, I had all the box score in front of me. You're asking me questions during commercial break. Kyle's asking me questions during the commercial break. Hey, how many explosive plays did they have?
Yeah.
Well, I was like, so I'm like writing all the statistics. I'm doing more stats for that game than I was our game at that point, which last week's game is a spotter's nightmare. Doing that with a 68-0 game and trying to get all the players that played in the game for Nebraska their flowers. But we're marveling at the fact that Kansas State had 6 offensive possessions and Army ran 82 plays.
I couldn't believe it. You're writing those numbers down on the dry erase board, and I can read McLaughlin, and I'm just thinking there's no way that has to be. He didn't write that correctly, and I get another number, 6 possessions. They can't be right. Like I'm waiting for you to marker down some more info. No, that was it.
That's pretty much to tell the game.
That was it. And now all of a sudden, a team that, I don't know, was in kind of the coin toss discussion of winning the Big 12 now is staring dead down the barrel of a not just an average season, losing season. That schedule is not very forgiving. And the Big 12 maybe is better than we thought.
I think it's time to maybe open that conversation.
Well, the Utahs and the Iowa States, although Iowa State has a tricky one today, why they're going to Arkansas State, I have no idea. But I keep an eye on that one. That's not a game that they should be playing on the road at this juncture of the season.
I think that's a fair assessment on your end. Okay, so your morning routine, I wouldn't even say it's a morning routine. It's different. Everybody kind of has their own because you don't sleep, right? Now as a dad of 3 young kids, like if I'm awake on my own accord, which is very rare at this early, I am very specific on what the order of operations, right? In order to get me to where I need to be.
Bless, please, my dear Aunt Sally.
It's like, okay.
Josh is the only smart one. Brackets, parentheses, what is it? Additions, multiplication.
Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally.
Yeah, something like that. I don't know.
You were talking to now 5 people in this room that probably have no business explaining math concepts to anybody.
Well, we got one, and if it's we got one. Goatney will be fine. We'll get to him later. He reads a lot of stats, a lot of scores. He knows numbers.
Something about the drive in when it's dark out, though, is just so therapeutic.
So I'm going to go ahead and disagree. I can't see, and I have a little bit of astigmatism. It is a debacle.
Is it?
Oh, yeah.
Why didn't you start picking you up?
Yes, yeah, that'd be great. So I was at your...
I'm in the room, right?
I know, right? I apologize. Mr. Driving Guy over here who answers all my driving questions regardless of whether they really pertain to his job or not. He's just the all-knowing. But so here's the thing. This is the one advantage to driving it when it's dark out is all the highway patrol, bless their heart, they're whatever the emblems, they light up like a Christmas tree. So I can see them coming from relatively far away. So that's good. No traffic. But my big thing in the morning is music. So I'm playing
loudly or quietly?
Probably just loud enough for me to hear. Like, I don't have to jam out to it. I just like it. So I appreciate the quiet drive of just music. It's pretty good.
Nowadays, my thoughts are loud enough to where I don't really need music.
I tried to tell you the whole 3 under 6 thing was not gonna be good for your spirits.
No, I woke up with a Snapchat from my wife of my 2-year-old that has a Beanie Baby snake that he's obsessed with all the time.
I was a big Beanie Baby guy
around
too.
his neck.
No judgment.
I'm just like, what are we doing?
So he's just kind of a closet menace, right? You've already kind of groomed him into the whole Kansas City Chiefs thing.
Well, and his big sister's a problem.
Well, no, she is hilarious. I wait for my weekly Kennedy. It's like, what now? It's classic.
And it's in the stuff that I send you. It's like I'm not clever enough to make it up.
Yeah.
So it's real.
So she has to have your sense of humor. Just the dry sarcasm, the cynical nature.
That's fine, but she shouldn't have it at 5. 10, 15. Like, I'm expecting it as a teenager, but let's just slow down on that.
And her kind of sort of words, you just got to get your act together.
You got to get it together. Got to get it together. You know who doesn't need to get it together is Nebraska's defense. We're going to get into the Huskers black shirts, and really it's been fun watching the games back, and seeing these guys grow. That was a huge topic of conversation for us before Cincinnati, was to see how Coach Butler's units would communicate, develop. The personnel, I think, is highly interesting to a lot of people too. It's hard to get a complete gauge on that on last week based on how many bodies they were cycling through, but starting to get some attention around the country.
Yeah.
Some elite statistics being put up by the black shirts in terms of totals. So we'll get into a little bit of that. Something I wanted to hit off here too, Damon, in this first segment is something that's going to be happening today. Nebraska Hall of Fame, Football Hall of Fame inducted 6 more members, and I know a couple of these guys you know very well. But always a really cool honor. Some of the newer additions in Maher and Kenny Bell, but some guys that you know of, Derek Brown, Darren Diedrich, guys that you probably know very well, and I've spent a lot of time with, and obviously played the same position. When you saw some of those names that were released, and think about guys like Darren and Derek, what kind of stand out about that, and reminiscing about what they meant to this program?
As a guy on the voting committee,
not me, for those wondering.
Yeah, and it's hard. The selections, the decades, parsing through the statistics. We spent a considerable amount of time with the criteria, and so I'll just start with Derek Brown, a guy in particular. I used to call him La Habra's finest, right? Servite, smaller school. Just coming from playing 8-man, and that was right along the time where, Nebraska with their California connection and Coach Brown, his ability to recruit that state, and I'd never seen anybody built like that played running back, right? So year one, he partly led to that and my ability led off to my slow start as a freshman because. We're getting ready to go to Washington, and I didn't think I was going to redshirt. And, Coach Osborne is like, well, we stayed relatively healthy, and we're going to go ahead and redshirt you this year. And I'm like, what the? I just broke a freshman performance index record. Like, I can play. Nah, no, not like those guys were doing. And Derek was just a guy. He was so unselfish. That was the whole we backs. And, I grew up wanting to be like Calvin Jones. So right here in my very locker room are these two guys sharing the load together. And just the way he took care of his body. He was such a physical specimen. He looked like he could do bodybuilding. And I didn't know guys that were built like that could move that. I mean, his lateral quickness and balance was unbelievable. He's top 3 or 4 guys from a balance standpoint. It's Derek Brown. It's Amir Abdullah, Kenny Clark. Guys, when I think elite level balance, D. Brown was one of those guys. Diedrich was kind of a workhorse. He was from Scarborough, Ontario. I'm very familiar with Canada and that part of, I was going to say the country. that part of the continent, I guess I would say, but pre-Pangea or post-Pangea. Just a guy that kind of went about his business, a little underappreciated, kind of flew under the radar, was overshadowed by his quarterback play a lot of the time when he was here. And then the latter two with Maher, who's come back to Nebraska to just kind of be that guy, and Kenny Bell, a colleague, a guy that I work with, who quietly had one of the, he came along and kind of ushered in that branding era. Mm-hmm. Where social media was just kind of booming, and he had the big afro and the huge personality, and he's such a good worker. I use the word elite sometimes when I talk about fitness. Just a guy that took consummate care of his body. He was wound so tight. He's built like a drinking straw, so he always had to make sure that the muscle to tendon to pull ratio. When you're that fast and you're wound that tight, it's easy to pull things. At least that's what I hear, because I wouldn't know. But he just a guy that went to work every day. Loved his teammates. That's a close-knit. The one thing I like about that era, the early Bo P teams, those guys love one another. They are a close, tight-knit group. It kind of reminds me of the way that I felt about a lot of our guys.
And offense, defense, a lot of those guys are in each other's weddings.
It's a tight group.
It really is. I was fortunate enough to build a good relationship with Josh Mitchell, who was
one of the great comedians.
Oh, yeah.
He could do stand-up.
And the funny thing is, I remember, was it last year or the year before, out of nowhere, Husker fans, started getting on him about something. That's the wrong guy you want to chirp.
Oh, yeah, he's relentless. And he gives 2 cares, right?
Well, and you have to be that certifiable at 5'6", $150, right?
Him, Kalu, a lot of those guys they're just wired different.
Yeah, yeah. But the thing that when I hear Brett Maher, the thing I think about is following up Alex Henry is never a fun thing to do. Not only did he follow him up, but he was the punter also. Think about that this day and age with how badly Nebraska's special teams have struggled, specialists have struggled, to have a guy to be able to do both, but to do both at such an elite level is something to just absolutely behold.
You know how difficult that is, though, just for perspective? A guy that has got a World Series title, was a heck of a baseball coach, great hockey player, really good at Super Nintendo. A guy like Erstad, they debated over whether he was good enough to handle punting and place kicking duties, and didn't want to put too much on that guy's plate. How is there too much on Darren Erstad's plate? But that's just the degree of difficulty to be a place kicker and a punter. So you're spot on with Maher. It's tough to do.
Nobody crumples a box score like Darren Erstad. Let me tell you that much.
Listen, we were terrified he was wound so tight from a competitive standpoint. He would work on, spinning balls different ways and dropping them inside the 10, and he had a huge leg. And so we always used to kind of make fun of his workload. And sometimes he'd come out and he'd want to play scout team quarterback, or, he'd want you to pick him up on his intramural. It's then we figured out, there's not a whole lot this guy can't do. The kicking jokes aside, he was an unbelievable athlete and as you know, a ridiculous competitor.
People would always ask me, what's Darren Erstad like? And I would always say, there's 2 Darren Erstads, the one in a uniform and then the one in everyday life. Yeah. And in the one in the uniform, just stay away from him.
Yeah.
Just don't talk.
And then you watch him parent, and then it's oh my gosh, he's a softie.
Yeah, just don't talk to him. He's in a uniform. And then Kenny Bell, man, when I think of Kenny Bell, that was when I first started getting super involved with the teams. Yeah. And Kenny was one of the first guys. The blue jersey hanging out of the pads from Colorado, from Boulder nonetheless. One of those first highlight films that you'd see and you go, this is the kid in the backyard that you hated playing against.
Yeah.
That you wanted on your team at recess. And then to see, the Illinois one-handed catch, obviously the game winner at Iowa, the punt return against Penn State. He had some big Husker moments. And
he he never took himself that seriously, but he was such a good competitor. His balance between kind of being silly and good. He'd wear the bucket hats and stuff on the sidelines during the spring game and take the microphone
Halloween
and do interviews.
Costume of the decade.
Yeah, but then once that whistle blew, just a fierce, tough competitor.
Absolutely. One last shout out I want to give Dennis LeBlanc.
Oh, the GOAT.
The absolute best.
Oh.
I'm lucky enough to be around Dennis a lot during baseball season, and actually saw him at baseball yesterday. It's meant so much to this university, has done so much. I mean, you can't even put it on paper, really. I mean, it's one of those bios that you're like, okay, where do we start?
Yeah.
Just one of the best men, ambassadors, employees, mentors. I mean, he's done it all. For those that have been lucky enough to spend time around Dennis, you know that this is more than a deserving honor for him.
Yeah, he changed my academic trajectory. And I mean that with all sincerity. There's two things that Dennis and I always joke about. Number one, I used to love ties. My dad was a big tie guy, and Dennis he was just a snappy dresser. His tie game was through the roof. And we would always compare whenever I had to dress up. And the other thing was I struggled my first year academically. I was supposed to be a smart guy, and I spiraled after kind of redshirting, and I didn't have the opportunity to play baseball. I was going to be a guy that was supposed to get to play two sports, and unfortunately Coach Sanders and Coach Osborne had other ideas about that, but I digress. So I'm kind of struggling my first semester, and I get ready there's two things. Number one, and this is a guy that people are listening to on the radio, and I'm supposed to be smart, so I'll tell you this, full disclosure. He asked me about my major, and there's two things that I loved at the time: killer whales and sharks. So I said, hey, you know what? I kind of like to get into marine biology. And he looked at me with that very Dennis LeBlanc look, and he said, you do realize we're a landlocked state, right? And I was like, oh, okay, sure. He goes, well, what else do you love? My dad was in education. I was like, I love young people. He's like, how about elementary education? And I was like, well, okay, that's cool, but how many hours do I need to graduate? He's like, well, you're going to be in, academic blocks. It's probably anywhere between 132 and 100. I said, whoa. That second number started with a 3. There's a lot of these guys getting out here with 124, 125. Like, what are we doing? And so we're having this conversation, and my GPA had dipped a little bit, just a smidge, maybe somewhere around the Mendoza line. And he looked at me and he said, you may be the biggest underachiever I've ever met. And it cut me. He knows this story. It cut me to the core. I'm like, are you serious? You know how many people have sat in this desk, Dennis? And he said, yeah, actually I do. And I was like, wow, I'm kind of hurt. And I'm telling you, from that day on, I got it in gear. He's just such a straight shooter, and he loves the student athletes, and he loves this job, right? There's no one more deserving than DL.
Yeah, one of my absolute favorite people.
He's a gem.
Oh, man. I mean, we talked about my daughter earlier. Every time I see him, he asks how the queen is.
Yeah.
I mean,
he knoes.
Yeah, they've spent
he had the twins. Like he made that. I wouldn't say mistake, right? God doesn't make too many mistakes, and he had twins at the same time, and I'm thinking, best wishes with that.
Yeah, good luck, man. But if anybody can handle it, it's Dennis.
It's Dennis.
Dennis.
Yeah.
So wanted to give a recognition to all of the more than worthy Hall of Fame members that are going to be honored throughout the course of the afternoon today as Nebraska takes on Houston Christian, headed to an 11 o'clock kickoff here at Memorial Stadium. We're just underway here with our Dakota Mac Husker Game Day show with you for about the next hour and a half before we pass it over to Countdown to Kickoff. I want to remind you that covering Husker Nation and beyond, to call Dakota Mac to discuss your ag financing needs. Learn more at dakotamac.com. We'll step aside with our first break. When we come back, Damon and I will kind of dive into what we saw last week against the Zips. A lot to like and a lot of names that garnered some recognition this week, and deservedly so. We'll get into all that. Stay with us.
You're listening to Husker Game Day, brought to you by Dakota Mac on the Huskers Radio Network.
Nebraska soybeans power everyday products, from Goodyear tires and Skechers shoes to soy-based turf and fire suppressants. These innovations replace petroleum and utilize other components of the soybean, leading to more sustainable products worldwide.
I'm Doug Sadoff, a farmer near Trumbull, Nebraska. Thanks to cutting-edge research, soybeans are now in everything from tires to turf. It's amazing to see how these advancements are unlocking new potential for our crops.
Soybeans are a win for every product and everyone. Nebraska soybeans, feeding, fueling, and innovating for the future.
The work is dirty and sometimes dangerous. It's the kind that can break your body, and if you let it, your spirit. But while there may be better ways to make a living, you won't convince me there's a better way to live. I'm a Nebraska corn farmer, and there's nothing else I would rather be.
Brought to you by the Nebraska Corn Board.
This is Husker Game Day, brought to you by Dakota Mac. You're listening to Big Red Football.
Nebraska football fans know what it takes to be the best. You've got to handle the heat, power through the cold, read the pressure. Same goes for the techs at John Henry's. They're trusted to perform when it's all on the line. When winter's driving hard and your furnace fumbles. When your thermostat is in the red zone. When the power goes out before the final whistle. Make the easy call.
Call 435-5555. John Henry's Plumbing, Heating and Air.
And electrical.
From Omaha to Ogallala, Nebraska is 2 million Huskers strong. And Medica has health plans to cover them all. From the farmer with a growing family, to the barista at the corner coffee shop, to the grandpa who gets his grandkids off to school. No matter where you are in life, we have health plans to meet your needs.
We got your back.
With Medica, you're not just covered, you're cared for. Find out more at medica.com. That's medica.com.
Hey, son, can you hand me that vice grip? As any farmer or rancher knows, having the right tools in the toolbox is important. That goes for your ag lending as well. If you're considering expansion, restructuring debt, or purchasing equipment, call Dakota Mac. We have a toolbox full of lending solutions to help you with your ag financing needs.
Hi, it's Nick Luxinger from Dakota Mac in Columbus, Nebraska. Call me at 402-740-6445 for all your ag financing needs.
Set. Hike. When champions take the field, they come ready to play. TNL Irrigation understands the value of momentum. Like a Husker drive, there's no stopping. If you live for farming and football like we do, TNL Irrigation has you covered. Check your fields from the game with a remote system, or just enjoy the play, knowing our systems are reliable as a sold-out Memorial Stadium. Touchdown! Nebraska born, Nebraska strong. Husker Nation and TNL Irrigation are like no other.
What does it mean to be locally owned and operated? For Cenex, it means everything. It means that we know if you take your coffee to go or if you like to stay a while. It means we've helped Little Leagues get jerseys and local festivals get funding. It means we know what our communities need. So you'll always leave Cenex with a full tank, full of snacks, or full of smiles. Or all of the above. And that means the world to us. Cenex, powered locally.
Tackle the toughest tasks on your farm with Brand Agricultural Products. They've got a complete lineup of grain handling and tillage equipment to take you from the preseason all the way to the playoffs or harvest. All their ag equipment is North American built and backed by an extensive network of dealerships that provide support over the long run. Lead the field with Brand Agricultural Products. Visit Brand.ca for more.
You're listening to Husker Game Day, brought to you by Dakota Mac on the Huskers Radio Network.
Hey, Husker fans, some people just know they could save hundreds on car insurance by checking Allstate first. Visit allstate.com or call a local agent for a quote that could save you hundreds. You're in good hands with Allstate. This is the Dakota Mac Husker Game Day show here on the Huskers Radio Network. Pleased you've joined us here this morning. Travel safe to Lincoln if you're coming from outside the city. Huskers and Houston Christian, formerly Houston Baptist, coming to town today. Damon, man, you and I sat in these chairs a week ago with a lot of hopes of what we were going to see in that game against the Zips, and I think not only meeting but exceeding the expectations that not only us but pretty much all of Husker Nation had on that game. On the rewatch, what was the couple of things that stood out to you, maybe more so than you thought watching it live?
That's a great question. And I was a little taken aback because even real time talking to KC, I said, hey, that's one thing you want to see. They got 10 white helmets to the ball. So it kind of caught my eye. But then on the rewatch, just the relentless pursuit of getting to the football. I I was shocked, right? There was that little sense of urgency, the drive right before the half. They put a couple of the starters back in, and I'm thinking, okay, they do want to preserve the shutout. Makes sense. But then to watch the elevated play in the second half, I was floored. B-Mac, I know I say a lot of silly things, but hyper really isn't my thing. I hadn't seen 3 quarterbacks function at that high of a level since the 90s with Turman, right? Where, we'd come in after Brooke and, we'd be putting it on somebody and people are like, oh my God, that Matt Turman's pretty good, right? It's like it had been a while. We've seen B-Mac. We've done games where you get a backup quarterback who's had a week to prepare, sometimes more, and didn't look as good as what was happening from the quarterback position last week. And I always caution people, and this is totally the coach and player in me that couldn't care less about the opponent. It's always about you, the individual. I was even more surprised at the efficiency in which everybody played than I thought real time.
The way Latif was more than impressive, as we know. But to me, it was the way he carried himself.
Mm-hmm. It's a cool customer.
In and out of the huddle, the way he commanded his O-line. I'm sure the score certainly had something to do with that. But that was first college action, right? I didn't expect necessarily to see that. That was really impressive to me to see kind of him operate. And I know he's picking the ear of the guy in front of him pretty much all day, every day, right? You got to be leaning on Dylan, especially with everything being new as a young man, being away from home for the first time, but as a college athlete, the demands of playing that position, probably drinking through a fire hose pretty much every day he shows up to the office, but you wouldn't see it. He was more than in control, which was great to see. One thing that really stood out to me, Damon, watching it back, and I know, and I want to include the tight ends in this because they've more than gotten their flowers for their efforts, but the perimeter blocking was something to behold. And certainly we're going to point to the block that Harburg had, but all of them. Out to the receivers, this was an issue a year ago, and Dana Holgorsen made that abundantly clear when he took over.
Was that the first presser he dropped the bombshell?
I think it was, yeah.
No, this isn't very good.
And we talked about Kenny Bell last segment.
Yeah.
That was something that was a non-negotiable for his crew. No block, no rock, right? That was the whole thing. To see that play back into an Emmett Johnson run downfield when you've got a wide receiver engaged 20, 30 yards down the field, that was something that I was like, man, this is really nice to see. And this is how the explosives come when you say all the time, do your 1 of 11. Whether you're involved in the play or not, that's going to show up on film.
Yeah, and how about the beauty, the juxtaposed to another week in which you had double-digit receiving targets. You had 10 against Cincinnati. You had 11 against Akron. So that's 21 different pass catchers in 2 games. And you were awarded via the traditional route of getting the ball targets when you're doing your other work too. And we talked about this, B-Mac, in the pregame last week where we said, you don't scheme outside of a reverse or a flea flicker. Routinely as an OC, you don't scheme up big plays. They happen out of the natural context of your offense, and you typically don't, if you're not just throwing it over people's heads, everybody's got to do their 1 of 11. And so to see that come to fruition last week, and the competitive stamina, because those guys want to play, and they're so close in proximity, right? Is there really that big of a difference between the second group of DBs and the first group of DBs, or the 9 different defensive linemen we're seeing, or the 9 different offensive linemen, or how about the top 6 receivers, right? Those guys, they want to play, and they're really, really competitive. So I like the fact that there's 0 drop-off, and a lot of it comes from their preparation Monday through Friday.
And the best part about last week is you've dangled the carrot in front of a lot of those guys.
Yeah, good call.
This is what it's like to play.
Good call.
This is what it's like. This is what you're fighting for every day. That feeling that you have of being on the field and making that play. If you're a Cade Petchock, if you're one of these receivers out there making a play, if you're TJ Latif, if you're one of the, 100 and close to 150 guys that got in the game last week. This is what you're doing it for, to chase, and now they're chasing that feeling every day at practice.
Yeah, and the beautiful thing is the competitive nature in which practice happens is rewarded in games where they're willing to play shuttle guys in and out early. And Petshak can come in, and we'll use him just as an example as a guy that was rewarded early for the way that he practices. But the trickle-down effect, and I don't mean like Reaganomics, but I mean like what happens across the board is it helps Keona Davis. It helps Riley Van Poppel. It helps Judy. It helps Williams Renari. It helps everybody. When you see Machechek and Sledge play the way that they did, you think that doesn't help Spindler and Lutovsky? It's like, God, these young guys are going to be pretty good. When Quinn Clark does what he does, you think Isaiah Hunter doesn't look to himself and think, listen, I'm going to continue to be one of these ringleaders because I know these young guys are nipping at my heels. Or Dane Key, who sees, the targets go to Hunter the following week after he was kind of the guy because of how the coverage is playing him. Just the competitive griminess of the day-to-day, that's what you hope to see on Saturdays.
Of all the plays, just take the names off the jerseys. But if you're just watching football from our perspective, the play that just looked so sweet was Quinn's touchdown. Yeah. I mean, Dylan's throw in that zone, him making the play, cutting across, reading the defense, just like it looked beautiful to watch. You
want to know one of the cool things is how about how he immediately, when he got in the open field, it was so instinctive and muscle memory to put the ball away. He's wide open in the clear, and he rolls that thing forward like, I'm not giving this up. See, that's coached. That's coached in him Monday through Friday to take care of the football, put it away. So even when after the sweet little step over, he's like a gazelle. Right? He's super high cut. He just kind of.
Well, at his body size, it's hard
right?
to. Yeah.
And he instinctively in the clear, he puts the ball away. And I'm like, that's a guy. And I told the story to KC right on air where he was going to play last year. And he was in the rotation, and he's out back by the Osborne complex. I said, QC, what happened? You were getting reps this week. And he looked at me, B-Mac, and he said, not going to lie, DB, your boy couldn't get lined up this week. And it's just the self-awareness to know that he wasn't practicing to the standards of what Coach Holgerson wanted cost him some playing time. And he didn't make any excuses. There were no BCDs, no blaming, complaining. He's like, listen, your boy couldn't get lined up. Cost me my reps. And I'm thinking.
No follow-up questions needed.
That's a guy that the next time he got his opportunity in a big-time performance, remembered his practice habits. Got that thing rolled forward. And, that was tough for me. I naturally want to lay out to hear KC's voice anyway on a touchdown. But it was easy for me to just sit and soak it in because of my affinity for Kenny Clark and how I grew up literally wanting to be that guy. Still spent a ton of time with that family. That was a moment, man. That's what Nebraska's all about.
And him throwing up the number in the end zone.
Yeah, I'm telling you, I had to collect myself.
Yeah, well, it made it easy for you to not lose it and screaming when you see that. It's those full circle moments that really, what's what makes this place so special to so many people. And I know it certainly spoke to you, but how many former teammates of yours watching that were just like, man, like what did we just watch?
I saw Toby Wright afterwards at the complex, and Tim Carpenter, just so many of the guys that either have kids playing or are still closely connected to the program that we're just thinking, man, how cool is that? Just one of those moments. It's fantastic.
And there were several of them. I mean, to put that on Akron, that was the best I felt leaving the stadium in a long time. Just, yes, the final score, but to do it in the way in which they did it.
I would probably say since Wisconsin, maybe?
Yeah. I think
where you and I were kind of yucking it up?
Yeah, I think that's about right. And it's nitpicking to find stuff about in 60 minutes of football to look that far down. I mean, obviously the fumbles, the glaring thing, but other than that, I mean, there wasn't much to harp on. I'm sure the coaches found it when they watched the film back.
It's what they do.
But yeah, I mean, in terms of putting forward 60 minutes of football, I was as close as you're going to see. Coaches make substitutions during the game to get the best player on the field. Getting behind the wheel after drinking also demands a substitution. Sober drivers are the only choice. Impaired driving is deceptively dangerous. From the NDOT Highway Safety Office. Peeking out the window, the sun is up, and I'm sure the traffic moving along. Let's get our first traffic report. Here's Trooper Brett.
Good morning, Husker fans. Traffic is flowing well as you head towards Memorial Stadium ahead of today's game. Watch for construction and reduced speeds west of Lincoln on I-80. Also remember, I-80 is reduced to 2 lanes between L and 144th Streets in Omaha. If you are coming into the Capitol from the east and are looking to avoid congestion, Highway 6 is an option at the Waverly exit. You can also exit at 27th Street to avoid delays on I-180. If you're driving into Lincoln from the west, consider taking Highway 77 southbound to Rosa Parks Way. Fans, just like football pads, your car is designed to protect you in a collision, and your seatbelt is the MVP. Buckle up every trip and every time. I'm Trooper Brett with the Nebraska State Patrol on the Huskers Radio Network. This traffic report was brought to you by the NDOT.
You're listening to Husker Game Day, brought to you by Dakota Mac on the Huskers Radio Network.
Hey, son, can you hand me that vice grip? As any farmer or rancher knows, having the right tools in the toolbox is important. That goes for your ag lending as well. If you're considering expansion, restructuring debt, or purchasing equipment, call Dakota Mac. We have a toolbox full of lending solutions to help you with your ag financing needs.
Hi, it's Nick Luxinger from Dakota Mac in Columbus, Nebraska. Call me at 402-740-6445 for all your ag financing needs.
This is Husker Game Day, brought to you by Dakota Mac. You're listening to Big Red Football.
If there's one thing Nebraska's known for, it's our beef. And Nebraska soybeans feed a lot of them, and even more pigs and chickens.
I'm Jason Pinky, a farmer near Craig, Nebraska. Soybeans are vital for feeding our livestock, and they're also a powerhouse protein source for people worldwide. Our world needs protein, and Nebraska soybeans are making a difference.
From tailgate grills to global plates, farmers deliver affordable, nutritious protein to build muscle and energy for everyone. Nebraska soybeans, feeding, fueling, and innovating for the future.
Here, fall means 2 things, harvest and football. Just like Nebraska, you run on something powerful. Diesel for your farm, gas in your tank, or propane heating your home. Sap Bros keeps your farm and family fueled. We're kicking off with a Big Red giveaway. Enter to win $1,000 in fuel credits when you contract fuel with Sap Bros. And when Nebraska wins, you win. Score a free king-size Reese's in the Sap app, whether you're hauling harvest or headed to the game. Sap Bros fuels Nebraska.
It's not a job. I don't start my day by logging in or end my shift by punching out. I don't have a corner office, but I do have a seat with a view. I get to see every sunrise and every sunset. And while I may technically be my own boss, I fully accept that I am not in charge. I'm a Nebraska corn farmer, and there's nothing else I would rather be.
Brought to you by the Nebraska Corn Board.
Set, hike. When champions take the field, they come ready to play. TNL Irrigation understands the value of momentum. Like a Husker drive, there's no stopping. If you live for farming and football like we do, TNL Irrigation has you covered. Check your fields from the game with a remote system, or just enjoy the play knowing our systems are reliable as a sold-out Memorial Stadium. Touchdown! Nebraska born, Nebraska strong. Husker Nation and TNL Irrigation are like no other.
Preparation is the key to success on game day. And like your favorite Huskers on the field, you need to be ready right from the opening kickoff. Cenex has your pregame routine covered. We've got your salty snacks, your sweet treats, ice-cold beverages to wash them down, and fresh tanks of propane to fire up the grill. Fuel your fandom at your local Cenex station. Husker Pride, powered locally.
Tackle the toughest tasks on your farm with Brand Agricultural Products. They've got a complete lineup of grain handling and tillage equipment to take you from the preseason all the way to the playoffs or harvest. All their ag equipment is North American built and backed by an extensive network of dealerships that provide support over the long run. Lead the field with Brandt Agricultural Products. Visit Brandt.ca for more.
You're listening to Husker Game Day, brought to you by Dakota Mac on the Huskers Radio Network.
Welcome into this week's Cornhusker Conversation presented by Woodhouse. I'm Jessica Cootie, and a special one for you today. We've got the quarterback, Dylan Raiola. Your first time in the studio.
Yeah, it's crazy. There's a lot. I don't know how people manage to press all these buttons and make sure things are going the right way.
This is how we get you guys on the air.
I know this makes us look good too, apparently.
You were saying you might start your own podcast someday.
Yeah, I might have to. It's pretty intriguing. I mean, Coach Rule's got his house rules now, so I mean, maybe I'll jump on that one. I might hop on Bussin' with the Boys, and I might have to create my own.
Awesome. Well, how are you feeling going into week 3 now here?
Feel good. The body feels good. Kind of all the hours of recovery is starting to pay off. So yeah, it's just making sure all the details are fine-tuned, and the guys are ready to go this week.
So you turn on the film from the Akron game.
Yeah.
What'd you like?
I like the amount of points and the yards we put up. It was cool to just see guys playing free and having fun. And I think when you can kind of cut the guys loose and just let them play, and they're pretty hard to stop. So it was fun, to say the least. And then, obviously my favorite part was the light show. Malcolm got some love, so it was a special night.
20 straight completions, which is the program record. Did you realize that you had 20 straight?
I didn't. I'm trying to get the ball in play and let my guys make guys miss.
Just the way that this offense has been the first couple weeks, and building off of what you were able to do last year. How do you feel different through 2 games where you're at right now compared to where you were a year ago?
Yeah, I think we spent so much time detailing up the routes and the plays and kind of what we're looking for to get accomplished in those plays this offseason. And Hoge's done a great job of calling it, and the guys done a great job executing. And I think when you just execute the plays and you kind of go out there and just make routine plays like he says, and it's pretty simple, but if you don't, it becomes hard and you find yourself behind the chains, and so we have goals and guys are aware of them, which I think ups the sense of urgency. Like, we need to make sure this is right so that we can hit those goals, and if we hit those goals, we have a good shot of winning. So. At the end of the day, it's about winning. And, when we win, it looks good. And if you lose, you look terrible. So we just want to stay in the win column.
The routine play part of it, how does that resonate with you? Why does that click with you?
Yeah, I think, you start, hopefully get it 1st and 10 every time. And you basically just try to move the chains. And, we believe in 2 first downs, you're off and running. So you get the first one, and then you get the second one, and normally you catch the defense on their heels. But staying in front of chains, like I said, it helps because it goes from, all right, we can only call these plays on 2nd and long to he can call whatever he wants. We can go get the first down. We can push the ball down the field, or we can just throw another little something to get the first down. So there's a bunch of different ways we like to attack teams, and I think throughout the week we kind of find those weaknesses and we go after them.
Not just for you, but for everybody on the offense. Was that something you had to switch your mindset to think like that,
Yeah.
Where you just simplify it, I guess, a little bit?
Yeah, I think it was hard. Like, you go from high school to college. In high school, you can just bomb everybody and air it out. Like, it's like the backyard having fun. But, I think after the first year, I learned that you're not going to beat people going deep every time. And you have to kind of methodically go down the field and do those simple things to, kind of get, positive plays and positive results. And, I think our guys have done a great job of that. And we continue to keep focusing on those details in the process that helps us get those results.
You hit 9 different receivers against Cincinnati. You threw 4 different touchdown passes to 4 different guys and spread the ball around. What's that process like for you to get to where you are comfortable in throwing the ball to so many different people?
Yeah, I call it spreading the love. And this offense, I think the ball finds the receiver. And actually when I was meeting with Dane on his recruiting visit to come here, he was talking about who gets the touches and who gets the ball. And I'm like, yo, the ball's gonna find you, and if you need a touch, Holg's gonna get a play called and get you a touch, right? So, you know, I honestly don't even realize I throw it to those guys, like that many different receivers, but you know, when they come in the game, it's like, all right, this is the play call, this is where I want to go with the football, and it doesn't matter who's out there because everyone's held to the same standard, everyone, you know, is trained the same way, so that just gives me confidence to know that, all right, if I get this look, I'm going to throw it here, and if he's covered, I can reset back to whoever I need to, but it's not really he's in, so I can't throw it to him, which is a great feeling as a quarterback.
You know, that being said, you spent a lot of time with a lot of these guys in the off season. How much does that translate when you kind of built something outside of it? Is there a different kind of feeling when you throw the ball to them? Yeah, I think it carries over tremendously. You know, did a trip to Texas in the off season in May with about 8 guys. And then, you know, we came back and had all summer together, and we spent a lot of time just doing, you know, just walk through stuff and routes, and you know, the guys just understand that, you know, when it's time to go and trying to run routes, like we're going to run, but, you know, also being smart that in the summer especially, you want to make sure you keep their legs fresh going into camp. So, you know, all those walkthroughs are annoying, like scripting them the night before was not fun, but you know, you look back at it and now you see everyone's on the same page and everyone's held to the same standard. There's really no doubt when I look out there to throw somebody a football. I was really impressed last year with you, just your communication. It's like, wow, that's a freshman, but it seems like too, it's carried over and even you've grown in that. Where do you feel like you've grown just in how you can communicate with guys on the sideline?
I think just the confidence, and Coach Thomas does an absolutely tremendous job making sure that I have every single answer to the test before I go into a game. And, you know, every single thing that could possibly happen in a game is talked through and explained. And, you know, when you have a coach that can do that for you, and it kind of makes it easy when you get to the game. Like, all right, he said this, boom, it pops up in the game. It may look like I know exactly what I'm doing, but, you know, Coach Thomas, it prepares me. And, you know, I couldn't be more grateful for him.
You know, going back to the time that you obviously spent a lot of time with Emmett, with Dane. I know with Luke Lindenmeyer, he talked to me about that last week, about the time you guys spent, how important that was. How did you find the time for everybody, you know, and building those bonds? Yeah, I think it's hard to find time, especially when you're trying to build something strong. You have to spend a lot of time with each other. And I think, you know, it was more of getting guys to be with each other. So, you know, I'd bring Emmett, I'd bring Luke, I'd bring Dane, and I'd bring more people along. And, you know, they would kind of see how we interact with each other, and then kind of the newer guys you know, would hop on, and we would just treat them the same. And as that kind of snowballs and carries over, it makes it pretty hard to kind of make a bond that, you know, when things go south, that, all right, he's got my back when you know, when the chips are falling apart. It's got to be a nightmare for opposing defenses now, the film that's out there on this offense, being that you do have the trust in so many different guys. I mean, you can't key in on Dane Key, you know, I mean, or Luke Lindenmeyer. I mean, there's so many different guys that you got to prepare for. Yeah, no, it's special. It's a special group of guys. They run, they catch, they jump, they do everything that they need to do at a high level. And, you know, with the guys up front protecting me and being able to keep me clean and upright all game, you know, it's pretty fun playing quarterback behind them. You know, with the Bournemouth offensive line, too, how much have you found that, being that you grew up, your dad was an offensive lineman, your uncle was an offensive lineman, you have kind of a different perspective of how to relate with those guys up front? I do. I saw it growing up, and, you know, Uncle Matthew Stafford, you know, he always used to tell me that the linemen are underappreciated and like overworked, and I never really knew what that meant until I kind of asked my dad, and kind of as I grew up, I saw it. And you know, the quarterback gets sacked, they're gonna get hammered, and if the running back's not getting yards on the run plays, they're gonna get hammered. But when something good happens, it's the receiver's that good, the running back's this and that. But it's just a lost cause in football, I feel, to care for the guys that are lining up every single play trying to hit somebody and they're trying to protect you. And those guys are funny. They're probably one of the funniest group on the team, just the way they kind of operate and the way they kind of roll. So yeah, we spend every Friday night at the movies together. We sit next to each other, and that's kind of our time to kind of take a deep breath from all the work in the week, and then when we wake up Saturday morning, it's go time. How special is it too, and how nice is it that you can kind of have those conversations with Donnie on the sideline, and it's like he's the offensive line coach. It's important to have that communication, but it seems like you guys have a really good rapport in communicating on the sideline. Yeah, well, I think first it starts that's my blood uncle, and he knows me inside and out. He's watched me grow up, and but no, we meet every Tuesday night over third downs and blitzes in our plan, and he's an elite level coach, so he knows the whole game plan where I can ask him questions, and if I need some help on something, he'll explain it to a way that I know and understand. So having him I think is a cheat code. I don't think a lot of people have that in college football. So I'm grateful for him and all the work that he does. Yeah, it seems like just the way he can explain things. It's just, and it's got to be super, like a luxury to be able to have and to be able to pick his brain. Yeah, it's just like a flow. It's not him getting overexcited about, all right, I finally figured out when they're going to bring this blitz or what it is. It's just kind of, that's just what it is. And we just kind of keep it moving and keep things pushing as it comes along. So you recently started journaling? Yeah. What went into that? What have you learned from that? Yeah, I got with a new trainer, and he trained Kobe and Serena and was around LeBron, and still works with Josh Allen and Saquon, and that was one of the first things that he showed me was journaling and scheduling my day out. And once I figured that out and kind of started trusting that for the 2 weeks that I was with them in Texas, it was kind of a home run from there. And I think, through the journaling, it's important to get your thoughts out and get your feelings and emotions out, so it's not just weighing down on your chest. No one has to know what you're feeling, what's going on. But if you just write it out and just write what's happening, I feel like there's a great relief. And, it was pretty cool that when Dane was staying with me and then was living with me, we'd sit down every night and journal. And I think that's talk about getting close with somebody. You journal and you tell them what you're really feeling, outside of the building and kind of a controlled environment where it's just, two people, talking. I got to imagine just everything that's you're juggling and on your plate, that it's got to help you kind of compartmentalize some of it. It is. And I think the scheduling piece is big too, with kind of just planning my day out when things are happening at what time slots, just so, I can understand that, all right, I have film from 2 to 3:30. This is what I want to get accomplished in it, and I'll put my phone down, I'll set a timer, and I'll just be locked in on that. I'm not worried about, all right, well, I got academics, I don't know, my schedule's already done before the day happens, and it just frees your mind up to kind of just focus on the main thing that you need to get done. What has allowed you to be able to manage and navigate all of this that comes along with being the starting quarterback at Nebraska so well? Yeah, I don't know. I think, my two parents raising me, they I can't thank them enough. And, the main thing they always taught me was, my faith, my family, and then, always being grateful and never forgetting where you came from. And so, I think me being able to, share this experience with our fans and getting out in the community and kind of just being with the people that make this place so special, I think it's what kind of helps me, just enjoy this and not feel the pressure of everything going on. And I'm grateful for this place. It's done a lot for my family so far, and I got 2-3 more years left, and my brother comes here, so this place will be special for the rest of our lives. It's funny because at Cincinnati, Kyle Crooks, our new play-by-play, was watching warm-ups, and he was making note of Dylan just ran to greet the guys coming onto the tunnel, and I'm like, that's what he does. Like it just, and I described it almost like you're like a little kid out there. So it's almost like, are Saturdays freeing for you a little bit? Like, it is. It's like, they're like, it's like I don't know how to explain it. It's like when you grind all week in school. Like I remember in middle school, I used to hate school, and you get through Friday, and like in Hawaii, you'd go to the beach, and that was just the best thing ever. So like game day is similar to that for me. It's like, all right, Tuesday I did the normal down, and I did third down Tuesday night. And Wednesday I did third down. I practiced. I watched the film, got ready for red zone, did red zone on Thursday, reviewed it, got ready for 2 minutes and the situations on Friday. And by the time you hit Friday night at the hotel, you hit the movie, and you're like, oh, I can finally
look back through my week and like, all right, I'm ready for this game. And then Saturday is just a time for you to go show everybody what you've been preparing for. And, you know, to your point of greeting the team, it's a special moment. It's almost like a huddle. There's no like recreation of what the huddle's like. So, you know, when I kind of meet the guys at the tunnel, at the carpet, all I see is fans, and it's like a horse with his blinders on. Like I just see my guys coming at me to go to war, and that's a special feeling. And I don't think you don't get that, you know, in any other profession than, you know, sports.
I think too, it's like you are so locked in and you're composed, but it's almost like you can tell how much you love the game, especially in warm-ups when you're just able to kind of enjoy being out there, running routes, catching balls, whatever it is, just being out there with your guys.
Yeah, it's fun. Pre-game is probably my favorite part, just because it's fun. There's music playing, there's people filling the stadium, and you're kind of getting ready to, you know, do something that's fun that you've been doing your whole life. So, yeah, it's kind of hard to, you know, not be composed, just because. One, that's my demeanor. I'm more calm and relaxed, but also just like I said, the amount of work that goes into getting ready for a game is a lot. So it's fun to just release it all and go put it on the field.
Why have you found your own love for this game?
Yeah, I think just understanding that this game teaches you so much more than X's and O's and throwing the ball to the right people, but it teaches you character, it teaches you how to handle adversity, and you know, most of all, just making sure you keep your faith, because there's a ton of things getting thrown at you left and right, whether it's, you know, fans, fame, money, anything that, I don't know. There's a lot of stuff that gets thrown at people nowadays, but, you know, when you kind of keep the core of who you are as a person and keep your true identity, there's not much that can sway you from you know, getting thrown down that trap.
All right, let's circle back now, previewing this week. You know, being that you closed the door on Akron, what are the steps that this offense needs to take going into week 3, the final non-conference matchup?
Yeah, I think, you know, we look at it from preseason 1, 2, and 3 games, and you know, this is the last one. I think the guys we just need to understand the red zone, how important that is. You know, we don't score inside the 5 red zone for 2 weeks straight. That's pretty alarming and frustrating, to be honest, about, you know, our offense and like the big plays and all that's fun, but, you know, if you can't get in the end zone from the 5-yard line, you know, you got bigger issues. So I think that's a main issue. And then, I mean, just, you know, games aren't going to be blowouts in the Big Ten. Like, it's the best conference in football, and so I think you can't relax, you can't settle, you got to keep striving, and you got to take practice in the process serious, because if you don't, they'll come back and bite you.
You know, there's no question that you evaluate yourself, and you're probably the hardest on yourself of anybody.
Right.
You don't get to where you are if you're not hard on yourself. But how do you balance that, like looking and evaluating yourself? How can I be better, but then also not beating yourself up?
Yeah, you know, just look at it from a view of, if you fix yourself, you can help other people. And once you fix something that's wrong with you, and I think there's power in saying, all right, I messed this up, I'll fix it. That's how you can move on from it without beating yourself up. It's just taking full ownership of it, and that's some coach rules poured into our program of, all right, messed up, just say you messed up and not try to run from it, because that's kind of how you spiral away, and, you know, you mess up something else and it's just like, all right, it's just one thing after another, but just putting it to bed and moving on from it.
It's great. You like the 11 a.m. games?
I do. They're fun, because I'm a early riser, so, I mean, even night games is like, I wake up and I kind of have to jump in the shower so I can kind of just calm back down and, you know, go back to sleep. But I do like 11 a.m. games.
Awesome. Well, what are kind of the biggest keys, I guess, for you guys as a team too? We saw the halftime speech with Coach Roll, but just overall as the entire group, what are some of the things that you guys need to do this Saturday? Yeah,
I think the first thing we need to do is understand our standard and what we play and what we put on tape matters. And I think that everybody understands that, because that's just what it is. Like, you own everything that's being put on tape. There's no, he did this wrong. Well, it's not going to say that across the ticker. Like, it's going to say interception. It's not going to say, you know, he threw it to the wrong guy, the receiver slipped down. Like, that's solely on the quarterback to make it right. And that's just an example. But I think, the guys are focused, and we're ready to kind of attack this week and, you know, handle our business, and then get ready to watch Bud fight.
awesome.
Yeah.
Great stuff. Appreciate your time and best of luck on Saturday.
Thank you. Go Big Red.
And Dylan Raiola here with us on this week's Cornhusker Conversation presented by Woodhouse. Woodhouse has been a trusted partner in your everyday since 1975. Shop for your next vehicle with the home team at Woodhouse and the official auto dealer of Nebraska Athletics.
You're listening to Husker Game Day, brought to you by Dakota Mac on the Huskers Radio Network.
Set, hike. When champions take the field, they come ready to play. TNL Irrigation understands the value of momentum. Like a Husker drive, there's no stopping. If you live for farming and football like we do, TNL Irrigation has you covered. Check your fields from the game with a remote system, or just enjoy the play knowing our systems are reliable as a sold-out Memorial Stadium. Touchdown! Nebraska born, Nebraska strong. Husker Nation and TNL Irrigation are like no other.
Agriculture is the economic engine of the Midwest. At Acres Equipment, we dedicate ourselves to making that engine run smoothly. We supply our farmers and ranchers with quality John Deere equipment, parts, and service. We also deliver the most advanced technology and precision ag strategies to help them farm today and for the future. Acres Equipment, solutions for every field.
Let's pause 15 seconds for station identification on the Huskers Radio Network. This is Husker Game Day, brought to you by Dakota Mac. You're listening to Big Red Football.
Hey, son, can you hand me that vice grip? As any farmer or rancher knows, having the right tools in the toolbox is important. That goes for your ag lending as well. If you're considering expansion, restructuring debt, or purchasing equipment, call Dakota Mac. We have a toolbox full of lending solutions to help you with your ag financing needs.
Hi, it's Nick Luxinger from Dakota Mac in Columbus, Nebraska. Call me at 402-740-6445 for all your ag financing needs.
Want to boost Nebraska's economy and help the planet? It's as easy as filling up your tank. Switch to soy-based biodiesel to cut greenhouse gases by up to 74% and support biodiesel growth.
I'm Greg Anderson, a farmer near Newman Grove, Nebraska, and biodiesel has transformed our farm. It cuts emissions, raises the cetane number, and improves fuel lubricity.
So ask for biodiesel where you fill up. It benefits our air, economy, and Nebraska soybean farmers. Nebraska soybeans, feeding, fueling, and innovating for the future.
Here, fall means two things, harvest and football. Just like Nebraska, you run on something powerful. Diesel for your farm, gas in your tank, or propane heating your home. Sap Bros keeps your farm and family fueled. We're kicking off with a Big Red giveaway. Enter to win $1,000 in fuel credits when you contract fuel with Sap Bros. And when Nebraska wins, you win. Score a free king-size Reese's in the Sap app, whether you're hauling harvest or headed to the game. Sap Bros fuels Nebraska.
The work is dirty and sometimes dangerous. It's the kind that can break your body, and if you let it, your spirit. But while there may be better ways to make a living, you won't convince me there's a better way to live. I'm a Nebraska corn farmer, and there's nothing else I would rather be.
Brought to you by the Nebraska Corn Board.
What does it mean to be locally owned and operated? For Cenex, it means everything. It means that we know if you take your coffee to go or if you like to stay a while. It means we've helped Little Leagues get jerseys and local festivals get funding. It means we know what our communities need. So you'll always leave Cenex with a full tank, full of snacks, or full of smiles. Or all of the above. And that means the world to us. Cenex, powered locally.
Tackle the toughest tasks on your farm with Brand Agricultural Products. They've got a complete lineup of grain handling and tillage equipment to take you from the preseason all the way to the playoffs or harvest. All their ag equipment is North American built and backed by an extensive network of dealerships that provide support over the long run. Lead the field with Brand Agricultural Products. Visit brand.ca for more.
You're listening to Husker Game Day, brought to you by Dakota Mac on the Huskers Radio Network.
Welcome back to the Dakota Mac Husker Game Day Show. Whether you're a farmer, rancher, investor, or simply a Husker fan, look to Dakota Mac for all your ag financing needs. Visit dakotamac.com to learn more. Ben McLaughlin, joined by former Husker national champion Damon Benning. Impressive stuff from Dylan. Just listening to him talk, he seems so calm and under control. We were having the game on from last week, the TV game, and to see the schedule that he had posted for just a day in the life of what he has to do, hard to imagine someone that young being able to take care of business in the way in which that he does, and operate at the level he does day in and day out, and then to go perform on Saturdays. Impressive doesn't really describe it.
It's incredible. I mean, he's just one of those guys that is just all about the business. And I think sometimes we get the wrong perspective just watching his day-to-day, like on social media and stuff like that, or, the high school game of the week. And he's a man of the people, but what he is he's a man about business too. And I think one of the things that's really underappreciated about DR, just the command he has of that offense. I mean, all the check with me's he gets, the freedom to do what he does at the line of scrimmage, and just to have that kind of command of the offense at his age is pretty impressive.
We talk about that a little bit last week about how Coach Rule is talking about the freedom and everything that they give him, and there's a lot on his plate that he's able to handle. But you said the word that's caught a little bit of fire this week. I think you guys talked about it on your show this week too, about the underappreciated word that you just threw out with Dylan. And, I've thought a lot about that too. And, I certainly think anytime you have that 5-star label, there's an expectation, there's a standard, there's you got to be a cut above everybody else. And with Dylan, I almost don't care, like he's getting the job done. He's operating at a level of such high efficiency that when you look at that and you see the execution and you see the ability to get as many guys involved as he does, it's special. And so the outside stuff doesn't bother me as much, but I do think there's some to be desired about, starting to put him in some conversations.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the thing about it is because he's ours, I think we don't have that level of affinity. But when you put him up against some of these other second-year quarterbacks that had the lofty expectations, the DJ Lagways, the Arch Mannings, the Lenoris Sellers, ask those guys if they trade the start, right? And I get it. You may want to talk about level of competition, but Sellers certainly isn't in the they had SC Upstate last week. So, it's just easy to take for granted when we see it because it is ours. But when you look at it in the grand scheme of things, I talked about the 21 different targets, and 10 the first game, 11 this week, or last week. We're just distributing the ball and the check with me. It lets me know he has full command of a pretty big boy offense. So it won't be something that I take for granted, that's for sure.
We talked about Dylan's development. We talked a little bit about earlier in the show all the guys that got into the game last week. But this is a good time, I think, Damon, to take some perspective on that word development, because it's a word that we throw around a lot, especially in the offseason. But, you're around a high-level program every day. Walk through with us the development part of it and how in season, not like, yes, you're watching film from the game prior and you're getting yourself ready and implementing a scouting report for an opponent today, but the development part does not stop. And, portions like this part of the season where you're out of fall camp, you've had a couple under your belt now, you're getting ready to go through the meat grinder, where the development piece, where we're at on that scale, on that timeline.
Yeah, I'll give you 3 different examples of why I think Nebraska can do what they do from a recruiting standpoint and have a couple poster children. I'll take Luke Lindemeyer, number 1, right? Comes in without a ton of offers, any offers, not a lot of accolades. Comes in as primarily a one-dimensional player. You watch him 3 years later, he's going to get paid to play. He's their most complete tight end. He's a good pass catcher, really good inline blocker, really good route runner, right? So you have that example. You look at a guy like Dawson Merritt. Comes in, highly touted. You get him to flip from Alabama to Nebraska. He's undersized. He's going through some shoulder surgery. Didn't get a chance to train in the offseason. You basically change positions, right? He goes from outside to inside, playing in a big boy conference. He all of a sudden is in your 2-3 deep. Then you look at the last example, who I think is flying way under the radar for how good a player he's been and how they've diversified his game. You look at a guy like Deshaun McCullough. You get him out of the portal, highly touted, Oklahoma guy. He adds the 20 pounds of good weight. He's become a very good player against the run. You use him in a multitude of situations. McCullough's a guy, in my opinion, B-back, that could make the case for Nebraska's best defensive player through the first 2 weeks, and certainly one of the most complete. So when you look at a program from a developmental standpoint, they can cut you a lot of different ways. They can get the underappreciated no-star. They can get you the young high school phenom. They can get you the portal transfer who is supposed to come in with some unique skill sets that they've grown in some other areas that they can say, hey, look, this is the vision. This is what we're about. When you talk development, I think it is highly, highly underappreciated here at the university.
McCullough is one of those guys that are so easy to fall in love with. Anytime you're a hybrid style player, like I'm thinking back to like Simmons from Clemson when he was,
good pull,
drafted into the NFL with the Cardinals. And when you match instinct with athleticism, that's when you're a problem.
Yeah, he was the second, third level guy at Oklahoma, right? I mean, he came in as a safety, and now you have him playing in these over and under fronts, spilling run plays against tackles and guards.
Knocking balls down at the line of scrimmage,
right.
covering
They'll drop him off in coverage, right? Where they have really added to his portfolio in terms of his stock being on the way up.
He makes being a defensive coordinator fun. When you're looking around and go, well, who do we have that can do that? 15. He can do it. I don't know what you're asking him to do.
He's bought in.
But he can do it.
Right? Didn't have to. He's bought in.
So the development piece, I think, is really interesting because, a lot of times during practice, we're going through news and notes, and we're talking about now Houston Christian. We're talking about 68-0 with Akron, and a lot of looking ahead to next week, and rightfully so, with what's in front of Nebraska at 2:30 here at this stadium next weekend. But like to get those reps to become, and we talk about this all the time, DB, getting that trust with the coaches. How do you back up what you did last week before Akron? Obviously the performance on tape against Akron, but how are you coming to work? Sleepy environment, 11 a.m. start, all the cliches are there. But you better believe these coaches, the standard that Matt Rule has set and the expectation for these guys takes a lot of that external stuff out of it. And if you're not showing that day in and day out, you're not going to get in the game.
Yeah.
And not only that, but, with the ever-moving landscape of a college football roster, you got to prove that you belong here every day.
And they've shown that they'll reward you too. You practice at a high level, you're going to get your shot come game time. And as long as you know that carrot's out there and pretty edible, I think you're going to try to your best to eat. And so when it comes from buying in, and Coach Rule said this early in year one, I'll never forget. He had a press conference and he said, with some of the guys in terms of getting acclimated to the culture that he was trying to set, he said, look, we've built lower level programs. I'm for you. We've turned programs around. I've spent a ton of time in the NFL. I've got a lot of contacts. I know how to evaluate NFL talent. Well, why would you want to fight me? Why would you not want to buy in to what I'm telling you? And now you're seeing in year 3, guys just chomping at the bit, hanging on his every word.
You mentioned Dawson Merritt. I think that's a good one. With guys that are, projects. Guys that you need to get to a certain point to become the next stars. And turns out one of them kind of well. Walk through with me their day-to-day and what their focus is, because a lot of these kids, they're new to college, but they're not new to football.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot that they have known and they're putting together and they're putting in place with what they already know, but in terms of technique and consistency and things like that, that's being, harped on by these coaches every day.
Yeah, it's a fantastic point. The guy that I do know real well, kind of that slow ascent, right? Going from a 4 to a 3, now to a 2, now to trying to be interchangeable. And watching Caleb, he's now he'll start on 4 special teams today with punt return, kickoff return, where he understands kind of the trickle-down effect. He gets really good leadership and insight from Buford, and he watches Singleton and Hartzog go to work. And while the dividends that he can pay may not be immediate, he trusts the words that are being said by this staff, whether it's Addison Williams or John Butler or Phil Snow, right, who was running some meetings last week in Coach Williams' absence while he was dealing with some family issues. The trust is just kind of that trickle-down effect. And investing in guys like Dawson Merritt and seeing guys like Riley Van Poppel follow what's going on with Keona Davis or Sola Fotu, or watching Sledge go to work and seeing what happens with Spindler and Latovsky. I mean, does anybody have a better offensive line story in terms of growth and development than Latovsky? So you get all these real-life examples of how to go to work, and then it's rewarded by what you see on Saturdays because those guys are getting opportunities to rise up the depth chart and play significant roles. You heard me kind of quoted me earlier about the 1 of 11. When you get the practical application of playing on Saturdays because of what you do Monday through Friday, you're going to stay engaged.
Yeah, the practical application is huge, and it's what makes days like today so important with that execution.
Yeah.
Is, people look at the point spread today and they'll look at the opponent and they'll look at all that, but there's a lot more on the line than just winning a football game today. It might only take DB one play to spark a trajectory of a career. And that seems like hyperbole, but it's really not, because I'm sure you or some of your teammates that you played with can point to one moment where, like, that was it for me, where the light clicked on.
I mean, just to see, there's so many signature moments. We're talking about a Hall of Famer today in Derek Brown. You go all the way back to a 45-10 blowout against Georgia Tech in the bowl game, and people watching this young number 27 at the time in cleanup time look like the guy. Another guy, Johnny Mitchell, where these guys are coming off kind of this red shirt, this development, couple plays kind of were the catalyst to the next year. You never know. And as long as that is out there, I love it. And the one thing that I'm looking for today, if you ask me to boil this game down to what I'm looking forward to seeing, is emotional maturity. Can you handle playing what would most consider an inferior opponent 2 weeks in a row, having another nameless, faceless opponent, making sure that you're the best you can be? And it doesn't hurt that I was part of a team that was still trying to learn how to win in '94, that trailed at the half against Wyoming in a very similar situation to this one, where it's halftime at Memorial Stadium and we're down to the Cowboys. And, you hear Coach Osborne talk about the standard not being the standard. Emotional maturity is huge. And for a team that's as talented as I think this one is, but still learning how to win, they get a chance to clear a pretty big hurdle today.
I'm just going to throw a wild prediction out here today, that hearing emotional maturity isn't the last time that we're going to hear that on our broadcast today.
We may revisit it.
Wild assumption.
We may revisit it.
That might be brought up again. Cornerstone Bank is committed to providing you game-changing solutions for your financial needs. Bank on a solid foundation. Cornerstone Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender. The opponent today is Houston Christian. Huskers will battle the FCS opponent today before they turn their attention to the Michigan Wolverines next week. We got plenty more Dakota Mac Husker Game Day show coming up next.
You're listening to Husker Game Day, brought to you by Dakota Mac on the Huskers Radio Network.
Preparation is the key to success on game day. And like your favorite Huskers on the field, you need to be ready right from the opening kickoff. Cenex has your pregame routine covered. We've got your salty snacks, your sweet treats, ice-cold beverages to wash them down, and fresh tanks of propane to fire up the grill. Fuel your fandom at your local Cenex station. Husker Pride, powered locally.
Husker fans, during this week's football game, we are recognizing the agricultural community in our great state with Acres Ag Day celebration. Farmers and ranchers have helped build the culture of this state through hard work, grit, and toughness. Nebraska Athletics is proud of our agricultural heritage and strive to live out these same values every day. We would like to recognize and thank our partners supporting Acres Ag Day: Beck's Hybrids, Pioneer, Central Valley Ag, Calcium Products, Nebraska Farm Bureau Financial Services, and High Street. Go Big Red.
This is Big Red Football.
In Nebraska, the good life means mornings that wait for you, a porch swing or a skyline view, work that matters, and time that's yours. Neighbors who wave, hey there. Stars you can almost touch, a mortgage that makes sense, more space, more time, more life. Nebraska, the good life is calling. Are you ready to answer? Learn more about living in Nebraska at www.thegoodlifeiscalling.com.
Hey, son, can you hand me that vice grip? As any farmer or rancher knows, having the right tools in the toolbox is important. That goes for your ag lending as well. If you're considering expansion, restructuring debt, or purchasing equipment, call Dakota Mac. We have a toolbox full of lending solutions to help you with your ag financing needs.
Hi, it's Nick Luxinger from Dakota Mac in Columbus, Nebraska. Call me at 402-740-6445 for all your ag financing needs.
Set. Hike. When champions take the field, they come ready to play. TNL Irrigation understands the value of momentum. Like a Husker drive, there's no stopping. If you live for farming and football like we do, TNL Irrigation has you covered. Check your fields from the game with a remote system, or just enjoy the play knowing our systems are reliable as a sold-out Memorial Stadium. Touchdown! Nebraska born, Nebraska strong. Husker Nation and TNL Irrigation are like no other.
For farmers, sustainability is a way of life. 97% of farms are family-owned, and 95% are participating in conservation programs and using sustainable practices.
I'm Ann Meese, a farmer near Elgin, Nebraska. I grew up on this land, and we're dedicated to being good stewards and leaving it better for the next generation.
Since 1980, U.S. soybean farmers have boosted production by 130%, all while lowering emissions and improving land and water use. Nebraska soybeans, feeding, fueling, and innovating for the future.
Here, fall means two things: harvest and football. Just like Nebraska, you run on something powerful. Diesel for your farm, gas in your tank, or propane heating your home. Sap Bros keeps your farm and family fueled. We're kicking off with a Big Red giveaway. Enter to win $1,000 in fuel credits when you contract fuel with Sap Bros. And when Nebraska wins, you win. Score a free king-size Reese's in the Sap app, whether you're hauling harvest or headed to the game. Sap Bros fuels Nebraska.
It's not a job. I don't start my day by logging in or end my shift by punching out. I don't have a corner office, but I do have a seat with a view. I get to see every sunrise and every sunset. And while I may technically be my own boss, I fully accept that I am not in charge. I'm a Nebraska corn farmer, and there's nothing else I would rather be.
Brought to you by the Nebraska Corn Board.
You're listening to Husker Game Day, brought to you by Dakota Mac on the Huskers Radio Network.
Welcome back to the Dakota Mac Husker Game Day Show. Dakota Mac, we can help you do the heavy lifting when it comes to ag financing. Whether you're a farmer, investor, or beginning farmer, we work hard to find lending solutions to fit your needs. Learn more at dakotamac.com. What's so funny, Damon?
Oh, I get a kick out of you. Every morning that I know that I get to start, 7 a.m., there's nobody I'd rather start a show with.
Various energy levels based on the people that walk into the studio at this time of day.
What did the kids say? It's a vibe.
To some it is. To some it's not a vibe. It is very much not a vibe.
It is a vibe.
We're kind of all over the map here. But
bless your heart.
We're all here where we need to be. Who else will be here today is Houston Christian. Kind of hard to find a lot of film on them, honestly. Interesting start to their year, taking care of Arkansas Baptist 69-0 to start 1-0, but losing to Eastern Kentucky last weekend. Interesting when what you can find of them, what they bring to the table, and obviously Zyshawn Edwards is going to be the guy that is going to try to do a lot for them. Is there anything that stands out when you watch them and what Nebraska has in front of them today? I have a feeling most of this conversation is going to turn into the me, not you type situation.
Yeah, I think so. A couple things. You're obviously at the running back spot, right? Mentioned it. He's big time. And a fascinating recruiting story, considering all the Power Fives that he was offered coming out to wind up at Houston Christian. I think he would talk about that aforementioned emotional maturity, going back to the recruiting stories of him coming out of high school. So Nebraska will have their hands full with him at the running back spot. But defensively, really good sized defensive line and a couple of hard-hitting safeties. Now, we'll see what they can do in the passing game, but when it comes to fitting in the run game behind that D-line, they'll present some interesting challenges, at least early. And we'll see what happens late, but I'm going to tell you, I don't know if this is a hot take. It would not surprise me if Nebraska gets off to a relatively slow start offensively. Now, I think they can make some hay defensively. Hopefully, they win the toss, they defer, or Houston Christian wins the toss and they take the ball. But I'd like to see the defense start first. I'd like to get a 3-and-out, get the music going, get the crowd going, and then watch that first punt return go for a touchdown, because they will score in the special teams today in some capacity.
I feel like you use the optimal word, and emotional maturity is something that will be talked about a lot, but energy. I mean, first time Nebraska's played in the morning, 2 night games, coming off 68-0.
Way different body clock, B-Mac. Yep. I mean, they had to condition these guys all week during practice. You know, they cut out their free time on game day, because you usually have some, I say free time like it's Kennedy or Zoe or somebody, but they don't have that window to kind of get their own minds right. They backed breakfast up, so they'll try to set the clock that way, but a much different body clock than they've been used to the first 3 weeks, and even going back to the week before in camp. Excuse me as my voice cracked. Josh is like, listen, I'm good at what I do, but I can't make you sound like you know what you're talking about.
There's no colored button on his board that can fix that.
That poor JH. But, you know, going back to the pre-practice, the Thursday night walkthrough of the game simulation, they're on the last 3 weeks of a nocturnal body clock. So color me curious to see, but they don't skip a beat. I'm sure Campbell and Kristen Coggan and, you know, the spiked testosterone levels in the morning, and, you know, how to set the clock for breakfast and optimal feeding capacity and energy. Like, what don't they miss when it comes to getting ready?
I was going to say, if you and I can figure out what's in front of Nebraska, I think Nebraska's
pretty sure
coaching staff, nutrition staff, strength staff might have an idea of what could potentially
They're fairly
be coming.
decent at what they do, aren't they?
Exactly. But at the same time, Damon, we're human. Those players are human. They're on their phones all day, every day. They know what happened last week. They know who's on the schedule next week. It's probably in a little bit of nature to be wondering what that matchup with the Maize and Blue are going to look like next week. That's not to say that they're not going to play well today, but how that impacts preparation or mindset, I think, is worthy of a conversation.
Yeah. It's I think for them, how often it's been kind of crammed down their throats, force-fed, if you will, with all the nutrition and food jokes about what today means in terms of building the general foundation, right? You're going to pour a little concrete, it's got to set, and then you got to see if the building you're on shaky ground or not, right? And today's a good little litmus test to see where you're at in terms of not only handling success, but knowing that you're your own greatest opponent. I mean, some of us as adults don't handle that very well, knowing we're our own worst enemies. So we'll see what happens when they kick this bad boy off.
And, I mean, I know different set of circumstances, different team, but I mentioned it kind of in passing off the top. Last time a team from this conference came to your house and you were a big favorite, it took a Herculean play from your boy Amir to get Nebraska out of jail in that game against McNeese.
On a fourth down that he had set up earlier by getting him in position. It was, I don't know why you're bringing up old stuff. You give me the willies. But outside of that, man, I think Nebraska, they'll be ready.
You mentioned the balance like of Amir Abdullah earlier. I have that play in my head. Like that was so amazing. Nobody could hit him.
Just determined, right? It's just if he didn't mind, so the players didn't matter. I mean that's really what it is. But he belongs in that discussion. The top, I'd say 5 or 6 running backs of all time at Nebraska in terms of just sheer balance and footwork.
Yeah, just tremendous. And so Nebraska, Houston Christian here in this one. And the other thing, Damon, is this is their Super Bowl. They're not gonna hide from it. I mean, all you got to do is read the first paragraph in their team's game notes to know how big of a deal this is. You know, Nebraska's hoping for a big game that's program changing towards the end of the season. Theirs just happens to become in the middle of September.
Yeah, and for them, listen, they've looked forward to this. They've known it's been circled. Maybe last week was a look-ahead game for them.
Yeah,
right. You just never know as we're trying to figure it out. So again, I'm actually kind of irrationally excited for a multitude of reasons.
Well, anytime the Huskers get to play on a Saturday, I think is a reason to be excited, especially the trajectory of the first 2 games and where we're all hoping this team is at the end of the year. Nameless, faceless opponent, I think, applies a little bit to us as well. I think just more to get excited about, hopefully, in 60 more minutes of good football. Game preparation and repetition predict success in winning. Drivers and vehicle passengers who always use their seatbelts will increase their survival chances if a crash should happen. Remember to always make it click from the NDOT Highway Safety Office. We okay over there?
I don't know. Apparently I'm breaking stuff.
Well,
I don't know why that wasn't quite attached.
Keep it on your end of the table, will you?
Yeah.
We're gonna welcome in now Trooper Brett before we're gonna get too far off the rails here. Let's check in on the traffic.
Good morning, Nebraska fans. Traffic is beginning to build in spots as we get closer to our 11 a.m. kickoff against Houston Christian. If you're in the area of Highway 92 and 77 junction near Meade, look for delays as NSP is getting initial reports of a non-injury crash in the area. For those of you driving into Lincoln from the west, watch for that construction and then give some thought to taking Highway 77 southbound to Rosa Parks Way. For those of you coming into the capital from the east and are looking to avoid slowdowns, Highway 6 at the Waverly interchange or the 27th Street exit are both good alternatives. Every team has a recruiting season, and that's right now for the Nebraska State Patrol. Apply today to become a state trooper at nebraskatroopers.com. I'm Trooper Brett with the Nebraska State Patrol on the Huskers Radio Network. This traffic report is brought to you by the NDOT.
You're listening to Husker Game Day, brought to you by Dakota Mac on the Huskers Radio Network.
Tackle the toughest tasks on your farm with Brand Agricultural Products. They've got a complete lineup of grain handling and tillage equipment to take you from the preseason all the way to the playoffs or harvest. All their ag equipment is North American built and backed by an extensive network of dealerships that provide support over the long run. Lead the field with Brand Agricultural Products. Visit Brand.ca for more.
This is Husker Game Day, brought to you by Dakota Mac. You're listening to Big Red Football.
Gary's Quick Steak is 100% sirloin and cooks from frozen in minutes.
Hi, my name is Gary Rower. I developed America's fastest cooking Philly steak from my 2 cheesesteak restaurant chains, one of which became a top 100 chain in the country. Faster means more great tasting meals in minutes. I promise you, if you try it, you're absolutely going to love it. My Quick Steak can be found in stores near you or buy online.
Look for Gary's Quick Steak at your local grocery and club stores.
Hey, son, can you hand me that vice grip? As any farmer or rancher knows, having the right tools in the toolbox is important. That goes for your ag lending as well. If you're considering expansion, restructuring debt, or purchasing equipment, call Dakota Mac. We have a toolbox full of lending solutions to help you with your ag financing needs.
Hi, it's Nick Luxinger from Dakota Mac in Columbus, Nebraska. Call me at 402-740-6445 for all your ag financing needs.
set, hike. When champions take the field, they come ready to play. TNL Irrigation understands the value of momentum. Like a Husker drive, there's no stopping. If you live for farming and football like we do, TNL Irrigation has you covered. Check your fields from the game with a remote system, or just enjoy the play knowing our systems are reliable as a sold-out Memorial Stadium. Touchdown! Nebraska born, Nebraska strong. Husker Nation and TNL Irrigation are like no other.
What does it mean to be locally owned and operated? For Cenex, it means everything. It means that we know if you take your coffee to go or if you like to stay a while. It means we've helped Little Leagues get jerseys and local festivals get funding. It means we know what our communities need. So you'll always leave Cenex with a full tank, full of snacks, or full of smiles. Or all of the above. And that means the world to us. Cenex, powered locally.
Nebraska soybeans power everyday products, from Goodyear tires and Skechers shoes to soy-based turf and fire suppressants. These innovations replace petroleum and utilize other components of the soybean, leading to more sustainable products worldwide.
I'm Doug Sadoff, a farmer near Trumbull, Nebraska. Thanks to cutting-edge research, soybeans are now in everything from tires to turf. It's amazing to see how these advancements are unlocking new potential for our crops.
Soybeans are a win for every product and everyone. Nebraska soybeans, feeding, fueling, and innovating for the future.
Here, fall means two things: harvest and football. Just like Nebraska, you run on something powerful. Diesel for your farm, gas in your tank, or propane heating your home. Sap Bros keeps your farm and family fueled. We're kicking off with a Big Red giveaway. Enter to win $1,000 in fuel credits when you contract fuel with Sap Bros. And when Nebraska wins, you win. Score a free king-size Reese's in the Sap app, whether you're hauling harvest or headed to the game. Sap Bros fuels Nebraska.
You're listening to Husker Game Day, brought to you by Dakota Mac on the Huskers Radio Network.
Welcome to Tunnel Walk Through Time, a segment where we reflect on Husker football games of the past. I'm Camden Cohn. Today, we travel back to this day in 2003, 22 years ago. The 18th-ranked Cornhuskers hosted the Penn State Nittany Lions for a primetime matchup. The Huskers were 2-0 after wins over Oklahoma State and Utah State, while the Nittany Lions were 1-1 after they defeated Temple but fell to Boston College 27-14 their last time out. Penn State got the ball to start and quickly went 3-and-out, punting back to Nebraska. The Big Red went on a 9-play, 35-yard drive to get into field goal range for NU freshman kicker David Dykes.
37-yard attempt for the freshman Dykes. Line drive shot toward the upright. He is good! He is 5 for 5 and a new career long one for the affable yearling out of the affluent suburb of Houston, Spring, Texas. And Nebraska owns the lead at 3-0.
So Nebraska's offense got out to a quick start with a 3-0 lead with 9:05 left in the first. Both offenses struggled for the remainder of the first quarter as the teams traded interceptions. Nebraska got the ball back with a little under 2 minutes left in the first quarter and went back to their identity, running the football. Big Red went on a 10-play, 42-yard drive that once again fell short of the end zone and forced another field goal from Dykes. He knocked it home from 35 yards out and doubled Nebraska's lead to 6-0 with 12:27 to go in the second quarter. The Nittany Lions went 3-and-out again on their next drive as they struggled to get anything going against the Blackshirts. They were forced to punt back to the Big Red offense, but the drive lasted just one play as Nebraska fumbled and it was recovered by Penn State. They took over on Nebraska's 29-yard line, and just 3 plays later, the Nittany Lions scored their first touchdown of the game and took their first lead 7-6 with 10:28 left in the second. Nebraska's offense needed to respond, but the drive stalled at the Penn State 40, and NU was forced to punt. The Blackshirts forced yet another 3-and-out, which gave the offense good field position at the Penn State 40. With 5 minutes left in the first half, the Huskers look to get some momentum before the break.
41-yard field goal attempt. The placement is down. The kick is up. It's sailing toward the uprights, and it is good. A star is born.
So with 2:23 left, the Big Red regained the lead 9-7 thanks to Dykes' third field goal. But they left time on the clock, and Penn State responded, running out the clock as Robbie Gold kicked a 47-yard field goal as time expired to give the Nittany Lions a 10-9 edge at the half. With Nebraska in danger of being upset, they looked to go on a statement drive to start the second half. The Big Red got the ball at their 20 after a touchback and 15 plays later had marched down to the 3-yard line, where quarterback Jamal Lord looked to give Nebraska their first touchdown of the game.
Goal to go on second down from the 3. Krewald again in motion. In the shadow of the goalpost, Lord keeps it off the fake to the 2 to the 1. He's in! Touchdown!
Nebraska was unable to convert a 2-point conversion, but they led 15-10 with under 7 minutes left in the third. After another Penn State punt, the Huskers had the opportunity to add on and went on a 13-play drive that took another 7 minutes off the clock. But Dykes' 34-yard attempt was blocked with 12:24 remaining in the game. In a tight and somewhat ugly contest, it was up to the Blackshirts to get stops and ice the game. The Nittany Lions' next drive lasted just 5 plays. They were able to gain just 17 yards before having to punt back to Nebraska. The Huskers quickly returned the favor, punting it back to Penn State with just under 9 minutes left. On the Nittany Lions' ensuing possession, they drove to midfield before the Blackshirts made a play.
Hills bobbles the snap. There's a scrum forward to the 50-yard line. Perhaps Penn State got it back. TJ Hollowell says no. The officials unstack, and Nebraska gets the football. Barrett Rude found the loose pigskin. Joe Paterno shakes his hand in disbelief as the Huskers get a big turnover.
A big stop for the Blackshirts to give the ball back to the offense with good field position as they look to put one more score on the board. The offense worked the ball down to the Penn State 15 before turning to David Dykes one last time.
Placement down, kick up on its way, and it is good! He's looking at Big 12 Conference Offensive Player of the Week.
That made it 18-10 Nebraska with 3:53 to go. One last drive for the Nittany Lions ended with a turnover on downs at Nebraska's 44, and NU held on for the win. Nebraska's bruising ground attack, led by Josh Davis's 32 carries for 179 yards and Jamal Lord's 100 rushing yards, gave the Huskers nearly double the Nittany Lions' time of possession. With the victory, Nebraska improved to 3-0. They would finish the 2003 season at 10-3. This has been Tunnel Walk Through Time. Next week, we will travel back to 2005 for a matchup with Michigan. Reporting for the Huskers Radio Network, I'm Camden Cohn.
You're listening to Husker Game Day, brought to you by Dakota Mac on the Huskers Radio Network.
Here, fall means 2 things, harvest and football. Just like Nebraska, you run on something powerful. Diesel for your farm, gas in your tank, or propane heating your home. Sap Bros keeps your farm and family fueled. We're kicking off with a Big Red giveaway. Enter to win $1,000 in fuel credits when you contract fuel with Sap Bros. And when Nebraska wins, you win. Score a free king-size Reese's in the Sap app, whether you're hauling harvest or headed to the game. Sap Bros fuels Nebraska.
This is Husker Game Day, brought to you by Dakota Mac. You're listening to Big Red Football.
In Nebraska, the good life means mornings that wait for you. A porch swing or a skyline view. Work that matters and time that's yours. Neighbors who wave. Hey there. Stars you can almost touch. A mortgage that makes sense. More space, more time, more life. Nebraska, the good life is calling. Are you ready to answer? Learn more about living in Nebraska at www.thegoodlifeiscalling.com.
Tackle the toughest tasks on your farm with Brand Agricultural Products. They've got a complete lineup of grain handling and tillage equipment to take you from the preseason all the way to the playoffs or harvest. All their ag equipment is North American built and backed by an extensive network of dealerships that provide support over the long run. Lead the field with Brand Agricultural Products. Visit Brand.ca for more.
The work is dirty and sometimes dangerous. It's the kind that can break your body, and if you let it, your spirit. But while there may be better ways to make a living, you won't convince me there's a better way to live. I'm a Nebraska corn farmer, and there's nothing else I would rather be.
Brought to you by the Nebraska Corn Board.
Hey, son, can you hand me that vice grip? As any farmer or rancher knows, having the right tools in the toolbox is important. That goes for your ag lending as well. If you're considering expansion, restructuring debt, or purchasing equipment, call Dakota Mac. We have a toolbox full of lending solutions to help you with your ag financing needs.
Hi, it's Nick Luxinger from Dakota Mac in Columbus, Nebraska. Call me at 402-740-6445 for all your ag financing needs.
Set, hike. When champions take the field, they come ready to play. TNL Irrigation understands the value of momentum. Like a Husker drive, there's no stopping. If you live for farming and football like we do, TNL Irrigation has you covered. Check your fields from the game with a remote system, or just enjoy the play knowing our systems are reliable as a sold-out Memorial Stadium. Touchdown! Nebraska born, Nebraska strong. Husker Nation and TNL Irrigation are like no other.
Preparation is the key to success on game day. And like your favorite Huskers on the field, you need to be ready right from the opening kickoff. Cenex has your pregame routine covered. We've got your salty snacks, your sweet treats, ice-cold beverages to wash them down, and fresh tanks of propane to fire up the grill. Fuel your fandom at your local Cenex station. Husker Pride, powered locally.
You're listening to Husker Game Day, brought to you by Dakota Mac on the Huskers Radio Network.
Back one final time. Ben McLaughlin, Damon Benning with you, our Dakota Mac Husker Game Day show. One segment left before we pass it off to Kyle Crooks and countdown to kickoff, inching closer to kick between Nebraska and Houston Christian. And time now for our ground game report, brought to you by Brandt Industries. Make sure your ground game is up to speed with Brandt high-speed disc for a better field finish and fewer passes. Pretty hard to be unimpressed with Nebraska's rushing attack last week. It felt really nice popping that big one early on. EJ scoring on that long run, play that got a lot of praise from the blocking, but, the vision that he had, the patience that he showed on that run. And it led to a career day for him, and Nebraska hoping to back that up again today.
Yeah, I think they finished with 238 last week and over 7 per carry. So I don't know if I see that coming, but if they can continue that ground game, especially with limited touches from EJ, and you start to develop the rest of that crew, they'd be cooking with peanut oil.
You know who doesn't really care what happens to his body when he runs a football? Is Mosey.
Yeah.
I mean, that dude wants he's got a little Pacheco in him. Yeah. Like, I'm going to score every time I touch the ball.
3 more years of this, and he will put himself in that balance discussion that I was talking about with running backs, because he's off to a heck of a start if he can maintain it. I mean, he can absorb some contact, and he's like Timex, right? Old school for us old heads. He just keeps on ticking, right? He gets to where he's going, and he doesn't get knocked off stride.
I'll worry about my body later, but right now, this is the obstacle in front of me. It's fun to watch. It can't be fun to feel on Sunday morning, but it's fun to watch. Who else are you excited to see potentially get action today? It was nice to see Booth get a couple of carries. I think most of our Northeast Nebraska contingent very familiar with his game in the high school space, but a lot of opportunities for these guys if Nebraska takes care of business to go get some totes today.
Yeah, I'll stay with 2 on offense. Number 1, Mekhi Nelson. Again, I just the handoff run game. I think he's the most explosive guy they have, and I want people to see the 22.4 mile an hour that I saw in fall camp on one of his long runs in the scrimmage. And the other one is a little off the grid, but as a KC guy, you'll appreciate this. I kind of want to see Keelan Smith. All right, I think he's going to have some opportunities. We saw the emergence of Quinn Clark last week. I think Keelan is really, really close as well. So I think with that, we'll see what happens.
The Black Shirts are putting together quite the standard of performances, and I would imagine there's a pretty clear expectation of what's going to be expected of them today.
Absolutely, right. You want to continue to grow and get better in the run game, and your pass defense has been lights out. Right, and so they're on some crazy statistical averages up to this point, and obviously the competition level will eventually change, but pad the stats while you can and continue to cover guys up like they do on the back end.
Nebraska had to update the record books on the shutout total from last week, first one in a long time for the Black Shirts pitching a shutout, and you can't do that without good special teams. Sometimes one play can completely change that. Saw that last week with the blocked field goal by Riley Van Poppel. You already made the prediction today that we could see some points on that side of the ball today. Got close a couple of times last week, but that unit and their execution probably needs to be at a level that Coach Eck's happy with, or it could be a tough film review tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, and he's like, his standard is pretty incredible. And this will be the third game in, and I think he's about ready for a score. They were close a week ago, so he wants to continue to build on that. And how about a scoop score off a block or a deflection? It's the one unit that needs to yield some point, or not yield some points, get some points. And so I think that will be one of the goals for that bunch today.
Lastly today, you talk about, emotionally being where you need to be and being able to handle this maturely as a football team. How are you going to put those? What is the team going to do today to put those concerns to rest for you early?
So I think it's getting in an early rhythm, and it may not yield points, but again, kind of an early rhythm where it doesn't look disjointed. It looks fairly smooth. You don't see a ton of missed tackles early, not a lot of procedural penalties. And then a quick start in special teams, whether you're kicking off or receiving, to see if you can set the tone early.
It's going to be a good one for Nebraska, and hopefully continue this momentum, this positive momentum, this surge that we've seen to start the 2025 season as we expected. And, for a lot of people in the stands, another opportunity to see their Big Red.
Absolutely. And hopefully we get through the rosters and we stay injury-free to set up what could potentially be a huge one and decide what happens in the Big Ten race.
I would love that. Even as a spotter and it's a disaster, I'm willing to make that sacrifice for everybody else. Trying to do everything I can for Kyle if it means everybody else is enjoying.
Well, if there's anybody that's going to be prepared with this flip chart, it is definitely Casey.
Oh, yeah.
So he'll be deep in the Rolodex and in his bag today.
DB, appreciated as always.
I appreciate it.
Get that voice rested.
No, I'm trying.
That's going to do it for us here on the Dakota Mac Husker Game Day Show. Coming up next, it's Countdown to Kickoff. Kyle Crooks has you for the next hour as we get closer to kickoff between Nebraska and Houston Christian. My thanks to all the help in the studio today. Camden, Josh, Russ, everybody else that was a part of this one. Kyle Crooks is coming up next. We'll talk to you after the game for our fifth quarter show.
This is Husker Game Day, brought to you by Dakota Mac. You're listening to Big Red Football.
In Nebraska, the good life means mornings that wait for you. A porch swing or a skyline view. Work that matters and time that's yours. Neighbors who wave. Hey there. Stars you can almost touch. A mortgage that makes sense. More space, more time, more life. Nebraska, the good life is calling. Are you ready to answer? Learn more about living in Nebraska at www.thegoodlifeiscalling.com.
Hey, son, can you hand me that vice grip? As any farmer or rancher knows, having the right